What's up, guys? It's Parnellyx, and I'm going to talk about two brand new builds that I think are actually really good on Jungle Warwick since a couple patches ago when item changes came through. I said that I was going to release this video a couple weeks ago when they did come through, and I'll try to in the future, you know, make sure everything's on time, but I have a lot of school and stuff, so over the next couple weeks, I'm going to have a lot of school, then afterwards I can start to actually focus on making videos and stuff like that, so hopefully we can do that. But I have had a ton of questions regarding a lot of the new item changes that came through, Death Stance, Blade the Rune King, stuff like that. So these builds are basically going to address two builds that I've tried multiple times. Like, I've played dozens of games on both of these builds, and I've had success with them, and I feel like that they are both pretty good. The one caveat is I guess I can't really tell you exactly when the situation is to build these builds. I think the two builds in particular, it's Warwick and Redwick. That's how I named them. That's how I coined the builds. But the Warwick build I think is a little bit better. It's actually I think it's one of Warwick's best jungle builds right now. And then the Redwick build is just, that's something I'm kind of unsure of. Basically, these both originated from top lane builds I was running. Well, I spammed a bunch of top lane Warwick after the item changes, and I was running builds that were similar to these, and I just applied them to the jungle, and they both seem to be pretty good. So, yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and just get right into it. First is going to be Warwick, and like I said, this is probably, I think this build is Warwick's second best build, I'd say, behind the zombie build. I just feel like because Blade the Rune King got buffed a couple patches ago, so that melee champions do 12% current health damage instead of 8%, which is a massive damage buff to the item. It's 50% bonus damage basically compared to what it was before, and it just made the item just really strong. And most melee champions, and Warwick is no exception to that because he just synergizes really well with the item. Basically, you gotta think of the synergy this way. Warwick, the main form of damage that Warwick has is through his W's attack speed, or DPS at least. You know, he needs targets to be below half health, and then he can actually kill them. But it's usually hard to actually bring enemies below half health. But Blade the Rune King fixes that because you deal way more damage against targets who are high on health. So essentially, you can auto attack them a couple times, bring them below half health, and then you can just scrap them and kill them. So it's just a really good synergy. And plus the actives, I mean, the active's honestly probably the worst active in the game, but there definitely is some situations where it can be good. But yeah, so essentially, how the build goes is just like this. You have standard. I don't have to talk about this stuff, but Cinderhawk. I go Cinderhawk instead of Warrior with this build. I haven't tried Warrior yet. I just don't think it would be good because I think you have plenty of damage already with this build. I need to try Warrior, but my theory is that Warrior is unnecessary considering you already do a lot of damage with this build. But I could be wrong, so I will test that out, and you guys can test it out too. This is just what I have so far and what I've been running. I go Cinderhawk just for the tankiness, and just it gives me a lot of wave clear and stuff, or yeah, clear speed in the early game. And then I rush straight into Bork. That's when I become a super strong champion, and then I, of course, get my boots. Now, I do go for tank boots most of the time. Technically, you could go other boots like Boots Lucidity and stuff, but I don't really build much CDR with this build. This isn't a CDR heavy Warwick build. This is a build that's all about attacking people and scrapping people. So generally, I go Merc Treads, Ninja Tabite, or even Swifties. I actually went Swifties quite a bit. Swifties also got buffed, so now the boots are actually not trash anymore. They're not great, but they give you more movement speed than the other boots in combat. So there's obviously a good situation for that. If Ninja Tabai's passive isn't good and neither is Merc Tread's passive, then go Swifties by default. So yeah, basically this is just the entire core setup of the build. But afterwards, you have a couple options, and I haven't really figured out what's best. I think it probably is situational. My favorite next item is the Rage Blade. Rage Blade used to, I never went Rage Blade on any other build on Warwick before, but the reason why I like it now is because a couple more patches ago, I don't know, it was earlier this season, they made it so that they changed Rage Blade so that it actually works. You're actually able to stack it off of Warwick's Q and his R when you couldn't before. It was really weird. I don't know why it didn't do that before. But yeah, basically you're able to stack it really fast now and apply it a lot faster and more often. So it's obviously really good. And this combined with Bork just gives you an absurd amount of damage. Like, it gives you way more damage than you would think. I don't know. Like, this is the only time I've ever actually built on-hit Warwick, and I felt like, damn, this is what on-hit Warwick is supposed to be. Like, I actually shred people. So when I have Bork and Rageblade, I feel like I'm actually a raid boss, and I have a couple clips that I have of me just, especially, I guess a lot more in the top lane, but even in the jungle, where I was just 1v5ing with Rageblade. I've actually gotten a couple like 1v5 pentakills or quadra kills or whatever, and it's just ridiculous. So you can go that. Obviously, the issue here is you're going to be kind of squishy, but I feel like you got to play fights more like front to back. You can't dive with this build. You know, your DPS. You want to stack up your Rageblade in the front line and then dive someone potentially. So that's kind of the main goal. Yeah, so if you feel like you're not going to like get one shot, then you can go ahead and get Rageblade. Titanic Hydra is also good after Bork, or you can go Bork Rageblade into Titanic Hydra. That's my favorite route, but Bork into Titanic Hydra gives you a lot of tankiness with Titanic Hydra and Cinderhawk. You become more of like a bruiser, but your damage is still very, very high, so it's very good. Plus you have the active, which gives you more burst. Also, something worth noting with this build, you actually will like burst squishies. So this looks like a very like DPS. That's like the crazy part about this build. It looks like, you know, it take you like 5 seconds to like, you know, shred through people, but if you ult a squishy like an ADC from full health, your ult damage plus Bork will do like 70% of the ADC's health. You're actually just going to basically one-shot them. It's ridiculous. It's not balanced, and that's kind of why this build is so good, because you're able to like burst people while being somewhat tanky and having a shit ton of sustained damage. All right, next block. So these are just kind of the situational items afterwards. And they're basically just tank items for the most part. Just basically everything I've mentioned before. I don't really like Abyssal Mask with this. I guess there's a situation where Abyssal Mask can be good as well, but I just haven't ran into that, so I didn't really put it in here. But some additions since my like guide include Frozen Mallet on this build because you're on hit. It just makes sense, right? Frozen Mallet has like the issue just in general of being an item that looks way better than it actually is. That's just kind of how it's always been. So there is a situation where you can run it, but I don't run it very often with this build. I've only done it a couple of times, but it can be good. And then Frozen Hearts, it got buffed a couple patches ago as well. It has more armor, so it has more of like there's a bigger difference between it and Iceborne Gauntlet. More of a reason to go it. It just kind of depends. Do you want the 50 armor or do you want the Sheen active? It's just kind of up to you. So yeah, that is basically Borkwick, and I think that is one of Warwick's best builds in the jungle right now. It's super fun, and you're able to pop off a ton. Alright, next build. Next build is Redwick, and this is the build I was convinced. I've actually haven't had much success with it recently. I don't know why, but when I started building this initially, I thought it was broken. I thought it made Warwick the best champion in the game, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I guess it was based on team comps and stuff like that. One thing I found with this build is I feel like you don't like to run it against teams that have a lot of like tankiness to them, or like champions that build a lot of resist, I guess. Because if you're Q, this build's all about life. This is like pure lifesteal Warwick. This is like insane drain tank. Basically, the idea behind this is I don't know if anyone remembers like the old Trundle top build where you'd go like Bork, Ravenous Hydra, and like Spirit Visage. Just insane lifesteal. I thought about applying that to Warwick because, well, Ravenous Hydra got buffed a lot, basically. And Bork got buffed as well. So I tried running it in top lane, and man, was it a fun time. So yeah, this is a pure lifesteal build. It's very, very, it just makes you so tanky while giving you a lot of burst as well. But again, the issue is if you're able to like Q like a tank, and that has like a bunch of like MR, your Q is not going to do as much damage, you're not going to heal as much, so you lose value that way. Maybe you could incorporate a Void Staff or something in this, but I don't want to talk about that. I haven't tested that out, so that's just throwing it out there. But yeah, like, yeah, I feel like against tanky champions, like health stackers it's good against, but against champions that build a much resist, I don't think it seems to be that good. Probably more of like a build against squishies. But yeah, so basically, you just go Warrior into Ravenous Hydra, into Spirit Visage. That's like your main core set. And then you throw in a Frozen Heart so that you have extra armor. You could do an Iceborne Gauntlet as well. You could. It's just kind of up to you. But I feel like with this build, having just the extra armor just means you're more unkillable, which is huge because this build is just all about getting your Qs off. If you get a Q off, you're back to full health. And if you're like, yeah, obviously it's gonna be very hard to one-shot you with these items, 40% CDR, and yeah, you just have like a lot of damage, a lot of CDR, a lot of tankiness. You have your E constantly up. It's just impossible. So it's pretty nuts. And even though like obviously it looks like oh just build Grievous Wounds, you have to build Grievous Wounds versus this build, but it's still ridiculous. You still heal so much. So yeah, I think the build is pretty busted in certain situations. But anyway, so basically this is just always the core build that I've ran. It's just kind of the 5 items here are always the same. And boots wise, you can go whatever. You can go this for more against squishies. You can go this against well, actually I don't think you'd want to go this unless you're going Transcendence and you just want the early CDR. But I just kind of threw that in there. Generally speaking, I would go these, or these. And then last item. You can go either Sterix Gauge so that you're even tankier while giving you more damage, or you can go Bork if yeah you just want to like shred people. It gives you more damage, more lifesteal, adds to the everything. But yeah, really this build it just gives you like a ton of healing. It's kind of the reason why it's good now is because Ravenous Hydra got buffed, so you actually heal way more than you did before. And also rune wise, with this build, you're probably going to want to go Resolve Secondary with Revitalize mainly and Conditioning so that you heal way more and you're just tankier. You can go Sorcery Secondary, but generally speaking, I'd go Resolve Secondary with this. It's obviously, there's a very obvious payoff. I don't really have to explain much about it. But yeah, besides, those are 2 builds that I've been running. I can't really give you too much information about how I feel like the situations where they're good, but just like worth trying them out in general. Also, Death Stance. Yeah, that's something I should have mentioned that in the beginning. I know a lot of people are asking. Everyone's asking. I get so many comments about Death Stance in my guide. And yeah, Death Stance. I tried it. I tried the item in many different builds, many different situations. Don't like it. I think it's too expensive. And then also on top of that, see, it's not just the fact it's expensive. That makes it like hard to build like in general. But even in the situations where it feels like it's actually like decent, I really hate the anti-synergy that the bleed effect has with Warwick's W. Basically, your movement speed from your W will only apply if you're out of combat, and the Death Stance bleed keeps you in combat. So if you get hit by like Ezreal Q, you're going to be in combat for like 5 seconds. So it's going to take you like 10 seconds before you can well, not actually, that's an exaggeration, but it's going to take you a while before you can actually start chasing people. So getting Death Stance means you can't really chase people. That's like essentially just takes away that factor from you for the most part. So yeah, I just think it's too expensive, doesn't give you enough. I would just stick to these builds, and I'm trying to experiment a little bit more, but so far these are the main things that I've come up with. And I just kind of want to get these out because a lot of people have been asking about builds. And yeah, so like I said, school is going to get out for me in like a couple weeks. So after that, there's a couple things I might have to do first, but I'm going to try to get into making more videos and staying up to date on YouTube, making sure that I'm not releasing videos like 3 weeks late, like I did with this one. That's the plan. So I'll worry about that in a couple weeks. And yeah, anyways, peace out, guys. Have a good one, and try out these builds.